Canadian boy. That's the greatest thing. You sit there with your pop and your chips and your father, and, you know, he's got his beer, and it's just great. You watch it, and here you are, you know, you're in it. That's why it's so much more exciting and more fun. You know, like, I like to be a 12-year-old playing every Stanley Cup game, because when you're 12 years old, you just have fun, and that's what you should do in the Stanley Cup, because this is what you've dreamed of, and there's no sense dreading it and going out and making a tough time of it for yourself. It's tough enough to play against the other team without playing yourself, so you have fun and you just enjoy the game.
I think hockey is a game, a child's game played by men. And to play it effectively, you must have fun just like children do. I've been with too many teams and sports through the years where you weren't allowed to open your mouth, you weren't allowed to laugh, you weren't allowed to question the coach or anybody in authority. You lived in fear. My players don't live in fear. They get up in the morning, they're happy, and they go to bed, they're happy. And that's the kind of person I am. I believe in precision and discipline, and that's the way I was brought up. Everything has to be exact. Everybody has to be on time. Everybody has to conform, and everything has to be in its place. In other words, our system, we have to constantly work on it. We work on it 45 minutes every day. We work on it and work on it so that we leave no room for doubt. Everything has to follow a certain pattern.
Anchored by Bernie Perron, the best goaltender in the league, Fred Shero's system has already brought the Philadelphia Flyers their first championship, last year's Stanley Cup. Tonight it brings them to the edge of their second against the high-scoring Buffalo Sabres as the final round begins. The blue-jerseyed Sabres tore through the regular season with an explosive offense that averaged almost 5 goals a game, dancing past opposing defenses with a shifting flow of fast young skaters who attacked in clusters, seeming forever able to keep their shots on net. But no team defended its goal game after game as well as the champion Flyers. Playing in front of the almost invincible Perron was a tight spiderweb of alert defensemen who guarded their end of the ice with disciplined quickness and the rather convincing physical argument that they were the only ones entitled to be there. Two teams of superb hockey players, men with men's skills who were once children with children's dreams, meeting on the last stretch of the icy road to the Stanley Cup. The Sabres opened each of the first 2 games with characteristic power, firing shots at the Flyer goal in almost continuous waves of sweeping motion. But the constant attack met a constant resistance as Perron stopped everything, while the rest of the Flyers, playing Shero's system of total team defense, methodically set up their own scoring opportunities. And the first goal of the series was Philadelphia's as Ed Van Impe shoots and number 7, Bill Barber, slaps in the rebound. The Flyers won the first game 4-1. And again in game 2, Philadelphia's defensive poise completely neutralized Buffalo's thunder, while the Flyers' own scoring threats like Reggie Leach and the gracefully aggressive Rick McLeish stood ready, watching, waiting. The blueprint of the Flyers' success can be studied in detail by watching the play of their captain, number 16, Bobby Clarke. When he is on the ice, he is everywhere on the ice, defensively alert, offensively daring, infusing Philadelphia with a contagious enthusiasm and supplying endless energy to the swarming instinct that is the heart of Shero's system.
He has a very good insight into the game, probably more so than any other hockey player I ever coached. He can sense the problems we're having maybe even quicker than I do, or he can sense a solution to it where I may hesitate and want to wait until we get into the dressing room before I decide what to do, and he'll say, now I know I'm right.
With the score tied 1-1, Clark's third-period goal through the pads of Sabre goalie Gerry Desjardins gives Philadelphia its second straight win. Clark's control of his team's offense sends the Flyers off to Buffalo with a 2-game lead.
The difference between a lot of guys is, you see, the old equalizer is hard work. Some guys have a lot of ability, but, they don't work as hard. And the guys with lesser ability work harder, I think that's the equalizer. If everybody, worked as hard as they could, each player, then obviously the guys that had the most ability would shine all the time.
Hard work has always been the key to success, and the Flyers are a hard-working team, and you mentioned Bobby Clark a little earlier. He always puts out 150%, and he really works hard. I've got to give the guy credit. He goes out in every game, he just gives his best. Sometimes you can see he's just dead tired, but he's still pushing himself, and that makes you go too. You see a guy like that and you say, well, I'm not going to be outdone. Man, you got to put out. You got to try. It's worth it. And I really want my name on that cup this year, and all we have to do is go out and work.
Playing their first game at home in this final round, the Sabres in white now had to win here to keep the series from becoming a rout. Philadelphia jumped off to a quick 2-goal lead, and Buffalo could have become extinct right then and there. But Rick Martin, number 7, lived up to his words about hard work as he and Gilles Perreault and René Robert, his teammates on Buffalo's famous French connection line, finally began to gel, and the entire Buffalo offense seemed to come alive. Danny Gare scored at 11:46, and only 17 seconds later, the quick-wristed Martin tied the score at 2-2. But Buffalo's joy was brief. Philadelphia regained the lead 2 minutes later, and as the second period begins, the Sabres find themselves once again in an uphill battle to catch up. It also begins with a new Buffalo goaltender, veteran Roger Crozier, the most valuable player in the 1966 playoffs, who replaces the shaky Desjardins and immediately boosts the Sabres' spirits with a string of dazzling saves. Again, the Sabres tie it up, and again, the Flyers pull ahead as the hometown fans in hot, humid Buffalo are wondering if the disappointing pattern of this series will ever be broken. But midway through the third period, Rick Martin fakes his way past defenseman Jim Watson. Perrant comes out to stop the shot, but Bill Height swoops in to put the rebound into the net, and suddenly the game is tied again. But by now, something else has been added to the tension on the ice. Fog. The unusually warm, moist air inside the arena has deposited a blanket of heavy mist along the surface, and the action becomes a surrealistic, dreamlike ballet. The players floating through mysterious, opaque clouds, the puck gliding somewhere around their skates, appearing and reappearing with maddening unpredictability. At both ends of the rink, desperate defensemen struggle to relieve the extra pressure in front of their exhausted goalies. But incredibly, the 4-4 tie continues as fatigue and uncertainty weaken each offense, and Game 3 slides into sudden death overtime. Endless coaching and countless hours of practice have prepared them for anything that might happen on the ice. But the uncontrollable elements of nature combine to overheat their bodies and sap their energies. For the goalies especially, behind their confining masks, the game becomes an ordeal. Almost 18.5 minutes of overtime have been played.
He's winning the draw, turns at his own line, lost it along the boards. Robert tipped it back for Perreault, too far. Jim Watson over to Van Imp. Van Imp comes to center, flipped it ahead. It bounces over Height's stick. He has to hustle back after it. Height stops in the corner to shake off McLeish. Around it comes to Rick Martin. Up ahead for Perreault. Perreault coming to center. Dumps it off the boards in the corner. Robert going after it. He scores! René Robert! And the Sabres win it again in overtime. Off the boards in the corner. Robert pounded it between the legs of Bernie Perrant. And the Buffalo Sabres are right back in the Stanley Cup final.
Discover the amazing hitting secrets of America's finest baseball school in Teaching the Mechanics of the Major League Swing 2. Tommy Mansky's powerful teaching video that features the same revolutionary techniques that have produced baseball world's back-to-back-to-back AAU national championship teams. Parents, players, and coaches have been simply amazed at their students' rapid week-by-week improvement. These award-winning techniques benefit players of all ages and ability levels and make a valuable addition to any coach's library and a great gift. At just $29.95, call now.
Did you know that Federal Express, Nike shoes, and even H. Ross Perot have made their millions using government money programs, and you can too? I'm Matthew Lesko. My new book shows you 15,000 programs that you could use to get a better job, get an education, or start your own business. Those who know about the programs are the ones who get the money.
I was able to get monies to buy equipment for my business and also a microloan.
The government gave me money to live on for 6 months while I started my own business.
I want every taxpayer to know you get $100,000 to open up a coffee shop or $15,000 to write a novel. You also get $9,000 to take a computer course or get a GED or a PhD.
If I could get $15,000 to go back to school, any woman could do it.
Doing what you want to do in life is like being on vacation every single day. Now, I'll show you how to get the government to pay for it. So call me.
Call 1-800-883-5995 for only $37.95. Money back if not completely satisfied.
Every weeknight at 6:30.
Does anything ever scare you?
Shap one-on-one.
I was happy that he didn't get back up.
The best guest in sport.
Harding, what do you want to be? A football player or a playboy?
It was Don Newcomb not being able to win the big ones.
You heard it first right here from Chocolate Thunder, Daryl Dolphins.
Shap one-on-one. The best talk in sports. Every weeknight at 6:30. Only on ESPN Classic.
This is great. Talking to a friend, that's all.
This is ESPN Classic.
The mood was changing. What had 2 nights before been a group of badly demoralized Buffalo Sabres had become a band of excited young athletes who believed in themselves again. They had beaten the unbeatable Bernie Parent with 5 goals in the last game, and they came out smoking for Game 4. Their confidence restored, their scoring ability renewed. This team had ripped games wide open all year long. They had blazed past the Montreal Canadiens to make it into this final round, and now their pulsing energy could be felt in every part of the arena. The zip was back in their skates. Sureness had returned to their strides. Once more, their passes began to click, and the Buffalo Sabres grabbed the momentum of this series. They were loose again. They were confident again. They were having fun again. There was a new crispness to the way they moved the puck as more and more of the game was being played in the Philadelphia zone. And no longer were the flyer forwards being allowed to skate unmolested into Sabre territory. The tight checking that marks the Philadelphia Flyers was no longer their monopoly as the Sabres accepted the challenge for control of the puck and fought for its possession like a team convinced of its right to it. And the goals came. Shiro recognized all too well the hazards of facing an inspired hockey team, but signaled his goalie to leave the ice for the last minute of the game so he could replace him with more offense, another skater, and maybe tie up the game. The 3-2 Sabre lead was within reach, and as the fog eerily began to form again, the play became more precise, the tension accelerated, and the final jousting began. Philadelphia would have to force the puck into the Buffalo end, and with Parent off the ice, their net empty, they would have to keep it there, setting up their shots and taking them before Buffalo could adjust. But with only 28 seconds left, Don Luce streaks away with a stolen puck, feeds Danny Gare, and the series is tied 2 games apiece. The challenger has caught up to the champion. The teams stand even. But part of hockey's magic is the explosive physical energy that releases when bodies clash on the slick surface of the ice. And as the series shifts to Philadelphia, the flashpoint nears. The equilibrium stretches until it finally snaps. The jubilant Flyers take the fifth game with a convincing 5-1 win and need only one more victory to repeat as Stanley Cup champions, while the Sabres must fight all the tired cliches about never giving up and taking the series one game at a time.
When you're active, the last thing you want is the uncomfortable itch of dandruff. Introducing new Head & Shoulders Refresh. It helps prevent dandruff, and its refreshing mint formula feels cool and stimulating on the scalp. No regular shampoo can give you hair so refreshed and flake-free. New Head & Shoulders Refresh from the Head & Shoulders family. Our refreshing way to help prevent dandruff.
Come here, kitty. The new Silverado interior is so big, there's plenty of room for seating. And, in a pinch... Mommy said I could ride the pony. Ample room for sleeping. Introducing Silverado, the truck from Chevrolet.
The song of the great whales can be heard for hundreds of miles. It's a beautiful way to communicate long distance.
But this one costs 99 cents. Dial 1010-220 and all your long-distance calls up to 20 minutes cost only 99 cents and only 10 cents for each minute over 20. Any day, anytime, anywhere within the U.S. and to Canada. No fees, no sign-ups. Just dial 1010-220, then 1 and the number and talk up to 20 minutes for only 99 cents.
Living heartburn-free just got easier. Just keep one of these handy. Pepcid AC Chewables. Minty chewables in their own little wrappers. They go wherever you go to stop heartburn before it starts. What can be easier than that?
Unparalleled intensity. Sudden death. One win keeps you in. 16 wins takes it all.
That's as crazy as it gets.
Get Cup Crazy on Fox Sports and ESPN. Check local listings for the games and times in your area.
Hey, hockey fans, if you want Classic Cup action, watch the Ultimate Stanley Cup on ESPN Classic. Get up for the Cup with the best Stanley Cup games in history. Game 1, Game 2, all the way through Game 7.
The waiting is over!
You're at center ice as Lemieux, Hasek, Messier, and the great ones shoot for hockey's holy grail.
Lord Stanley, get me the brandy!
If you're looking for some cold comfort, catch the Ultimate Stanley Cup starting June 6th only on ESPN Classic.
This is ESPN Classic.
Buffalo coach Floyd Smith is reluctant to confuse his team now with massive changes, so he makes only one, a switch of goaltenders. And as the Buffalo fans file into Memorial Auditorium, the man they see warming up is Roger Crozier, an old hero in a new uniform reaching for yesterday's fire. When the desire to play goalie first strikes a young boy just learning the game, a subtle thing happens that forever separates him from the other kids and condemns him to bear an extra measure of pressure from that moment on. Parent and Crozier are themselves united in a strange bond, dueling each other as well as each other's teams. And one of the most fascinating tangents of Stanley Cup play unfolds, a pair of goalies locked in scoreless battle as both teams probe for the most fruitful blend of cautious defense and bold attack. Through the first two periods, the Flyers and the Sabres flash up and down the ice, testing each other, challenging each other, searching for a single weakness to exploit. But neither team can find one. Both goaltenders play brilliantly, turning away dozens of shots. But a growing awareness begins to spread through the arena that it can't last, that kind fates are being prepared for one of the players, a Sabre, a Flyer, someone who can't possibly know yet that he is about to become a hero. Barely into the third period, the puck goes behind the Buffalo net. Legs churning, muscles straining, Flyer Bob Kelly chases it and bangs in the game's first goal. Just 11 seconds had gone by, and as the replay shows, Kelly simply bulled his way into position, found a tiny opening around Crozier, and the first goal of the night against the gallant veteran gives the Flyers a slim lead, but one few other teams could protect as well. While Kelly's joyous teammates gathered to congratulate him, a prophetic hush seemed to descend on the crowd as they sensed the edges of their dream begin to fade away. And it would, unless the Sabres could come down to the other end of the ice and shatter Parent's perfection. Buffalo now rushed 3 and 4 men at a time, sacrificing some defense for the goal they had to have. Only minutes remain as the puck is worked around the back of the Flyer net. Out to Jerry Korab, who fires a shot at Parent. It's blocked in front, comes loose. Suddenly, the Flyers are the ones on the attack. Kindrachuk slides the puck over to Bill Clement, and the young winger deftly applies the coup de grace. And from somewhere in the building, the silver-tiered Stanley Cup begins its journey to the ice. This was a victory fashioned by goals from two non-starters, proving how efficient the Shiro system was, relying on desire and hard work to complement a mastery of the game's fundamentals. And it was the way Philadelphia had coolly and efficiently eliminated so many of its opponents. All season long, the Flyers had heard tiny voices calling their championship a fluke, daring them to try it again. And now their second straight Stanley Cup was only 2 seconds away.
I think hockey is a game, a child's game played by men. And to play it, you must have fun just like children do. I've been with too many teams in sports through the years where you weren't allowed to open your mouth, you weren't allowed to laugh. My players don't live in fear. They get up in the morning, they're happy, and they go to bed, they're happy.
The pressure released, their prize secure. These are the children who long ago put skates on and never took them off, who grew numb in winter's chill practicing for hours on frozen country ponds, who dreamed of putting their hands on the silver Stanley Cup. And for the two goalies released now from battle, a shared pride in a fleeting moment of understood equality.
The Boston Bruins captured the East Division crown, rolling up a fantastic 119 points with 54 wins and only 13 losses. The incomparable Bobby Orr paved the way. Orr's 37 goals tied his own mark for most goals by a defenseman, and his 80 assists led the league in that department. Additionally, Orr was a first-team All-Star, won the Hart Trophy as the most valuable player for the third consecutive time, and took home the Norris Trophy as the league's outstanding defenseman for the 5th straight time. Another first-team All-Star, Phil Esposito, earned his third scoring title in 4 years with 66 goals and 67 assists. Espo's 66, though 10 short of his single-season record set 1 year ago, was the second highest total in NHL history. But the Bruins machine was much more than Esposito and Orr. 8 players had over 20 goals. The power play unit tallied 74 times with a manpower advantage and 18 more while shorthanded to lead the entire league. The defense was aided by the acquisition of Carl Vadnais from California and the steady play of Dallas Smith. Fred Stanfield was 12th in the NHL scoring parade, while veteran left wing Johnny Busick finished in the top 10 with 32 goals and 51 assists. Ken Hodge missed 18 games with an ankle injury, but still managed to have a productive year with 56 points. All in all, there was every good reason for Bostonians to celebrate during the 1972 campaign. The New York Rangers nailed down second place in the East, 10 points behind the Bruins, as Rangers captain Vic Hadfield became the 6th player in NHL history to score 50 goals. Center Jean Rattel led the league in scoring until a broken ankle forced him to the sidelines with 15 games remaining. Still, Rattel finished 3rd with 109 points and was awarded the Lady Byng Trophy. First-team All-Star Rod Gilbert was the NHL's number 5 scorer, and this goal put the Gilbert-Rattel-Hadfield line in the record book. Outstanding performances by Walt Kachuk and Billy Fairburn helped the powerful Rangers offense establish a club record 317 goals during the season. Brad Park became only the 3rd defenseman in NHL history to tally more than 20 goals as he scored 24 times en route to a position on the first-team All-Stars. Park's defensive efforts anchored the Rangers' back line in impressive fashion with help from Rod Sealing. The goaltending duo of Eddie Jockman and Gilles Villemure, last year's Vezina Trophy winners, finished third in 1972 with another well-rounded showing.
Rogaine Extra Strength works for 4 out of 5 men.
What do you mean works?
Regrows hair, or at least stops hair loss.
With my luck, I'll be that 5th guy.
Probably not. But here's our guarantee. Give Rogaine Extra Strength an honest chance. You be the judge. It stops hair loss, or regrows hair, more hair, thicker hair, faster, or we give your money back. Guaranteed. Rogaine Extra Strength works for you, or your money back.
I can't lose.
Don't get me started on stockbrokers. I had one for the better part of 10 years. Let me tell you something. The only one who was broker was me. With Ameritrade, it's so simple. I sit down at my computer, I want to execute a trade, couple of clicks, trade goes through. $8 a trade. I know that when I wash this boat, it's going to get done right. That's how I feel about Ameritrade. I know that when I make a trade, it's going to go through. I don't have to wait for a stockbroker to call me back. Don't have to worry about his commission. I don't need that extra stuff. I got enough to think about. Stay out of the street.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, where's my hug for your papa? Did you finish that book?
Oh, yeah.
Very good. People talk about their finances. They say, I woulda, I coulda, I shoulda. You didn't read that book, did you?
I'll read it.
Not me, I'm doing it. I'm doing it today. My stockbroker said you're gonna hate online trading. You can add that to the long list of things he was wrong about.
Call toll-free 800-573-9876 or visit Ameritrade.com. Ameritrade, the way to trade, period.
This is ESPN Classic.
The Montreal Canadiens finished third in the East, only 1 point behind New York. Weakened by the retirement of Jean Beliveau, the defending Stanley Cup champions rallied late in the season and almost caught the Rangers. Frank and Peter Mahovlich form a devastating brother act. Frank scored 43 goals and 53 assists to finish 6th among the league leaders. Peter added 35 goals in his best season ever. The flying Frenchman Yvan Cournoyer was 8th in the league scoring race with 47 goals and was elected to the second-team All-Star squad at right wing. Jacques Lemaire and Marc Tardif both set new personal scoring records with 32 and 31 goals each, as the Canadiens' power-packed offense joined Boston and New York in breaking the 300-goal barrier. Rookie Guy Lafleur contributed strongly with 29 goals and 35 assists, lending validity to his #1 draft selection a year ago. Big Ken Dryden proved his performance as the 1971 Stanley Cup MVP was no fluke. By far the busiest goaltender in the league, Dryden appeared in 64 games and lost only 8. His amazing 2.24 goals against average helped him earn the Calder Trophy as the NHL's Rookie of the Year. The Toronto Maple Leafs fought off a late-season surge by Detroit to capture the 4th playoff berth in the East. And it was the Leafs' defense that pulled them through with top-notch performances by veterans Jacques Plante and Bernie Perrin in goal and Bobby Baugh on the back line. The Leafs offense featured Dave Keon, Paul Henderson, Ron Ellis, and Norm Ullman. Ullman went over the 1,000-point level in his career with his 3rd point of the season. He ended the year with 23 goals and 50 assists, placing him among the top 20 in the league as the Leafs' top point getter. Dave Keon, in his 12th season with Toronto, continued to play his inspired brand of hockey all over the ice, while Paul Henderson hit the 30 or better mark for the 2nd straight year, scoring 38 goals to lead the Leafs in that department. Ron Ellis made it 6 consecutive campaigns of 20 goals or more as he tallied 23 times. With Gordie Howe retired, Alex Del Vecchio became Detroit's most active senior citizen. In his 21st season as a Red Wing, Del Vecchio hit the 20-goal mark for the 13th time, spearheading a furious rush at the East Final playoff slot. The Wings fell just short after carrying the fight down to the last week. Red Berenson and Mickey Redmond added fuel to the fiery Red Wings, climbing into the top 20 scoring list. Gary Bergman was the steadying influence in a defense that showed tremendous improvement as the season progressed. Marcel Dionne, the Red Wings' #1 draft choice, proved to be everything the Detroit fans anticipated and then some. Dionne set a sizzling scoring pace down the stretch to finish 13th in the league. In the process, he established a new record for total points by a rookie with 77. Dionne and 4th-year man Nick Libett are 2 prominent reasons the Wings' youth movement is taking hold. The Buffalo Sabres came up with their 2nd super rookie in a row. Last year it was Gil Perreault. This year it was Rick Martin. Martin took aim on Perreault's freshman record of 38 goals and snapped it with a grand total of 44. Here's number 39, the record breaker. Perreault continued his spectacular play in his sophomore season, tying Rick Martin for 15th in the NHL scoring derby with 74 points. The 2nd busiest goaltender in the NHL in 1972 was the Sabres' Roger Crozier. Crozier appeared in 63 games. A crafty veteran but still just 30 years old, the nimble Crozier gives Buffalo a steady hand in the nets. This was the Sabres' 2nd season in the NHL, and the future is bright. Building with youngsters, the likes of Perreault, Martin, Jerry Meehan, Steve Atkinson, and Don Luce, the Sabres are beginning to make their presence felt. The Vancouver Canucks, also a 2nd-year team, also came up with another talented rookie. In 1971, it was Dale Talent. This year, it was Josila Gavrimo. Wearing #2, Gavrimo's heady defensive play showed consistency and poise, not generally associated with rookie defensemen. On offense, Gavrimo was a pleasant surprise, racking up more points than a defenseman named Bobby Orr did back in his rookie season. Jocelyn Gavrimo, a name to remember for the Vancouver Canucks.
Remember when a quarter bought you 3 songs on the jukebox? And where you had the most fun hanging out with your friends?
Young love, first love.
Now relive those malt shop memories with 36 of the most romantic songs to ever come out of a jukebox.
Since I met you, baby, Earth Angel, Earth Angel. Heavenly shades of night are falling. It's twilight time. 16 candles. Come with me, my love. Teen angel, can you hear me? Who's sorry now? Poor little fool. Oh yeah. All I have to do is dream.
Shop Memories. 36 all-time classics on 2 cassettes or 2 CDs. Here's how to order.
Have your credit card ready and call toll-free 1-800-527-2228. Call from U.S. or Canada. That's 1-800-527-2228. Or send $19.98 for 2 cassettes or $26.98 for 2 CDs plus $4.95 shipping to Malt Shop Memories, P.O. Box 6900, Libertyville, Illinois 60048.
Tom Dempsey will try to kick the longest field goal in National League history. Here's a snap. The ball is down. Dempsey kicks. It's all the way. It is.
This is ESPN Classic.
This is ESPN Classic.
The 1972 West Division race was all Chicago. The Blackhawks tied their all-time season high of 107 points with strong offense and awesome defense. Bobby and Dennis Hull terrorized goaltenders throughout the league with high-powered bombing leading to 50 and 30 goals respectively. With Pitt Martin among the NHL's top 20, Stan Mikita, Jim Pappen, and Cliff Coral all enjoying productive campaigns, the Blackhawks offense more than held its own. But it was an even greater year for the defense, as goaltenders Tony Esposito and Gary Smith captured the Vezina Trophy by a comfortable margin. Outstanding contributions from second-team All-Stars Bill White and Pat Stapleton helped cement the NHL's stingiest defense in front of the spectacular performance of Tony Esposito, the first-team All-Star goaltender. Improved team in the NHL, the Minnesota North Stars, finished an easy second in the West with rugged defense and well-balanced offense. Jude Drouin, runner-up for the Calder Trophy in 1971, had an impressive sophomore season in spite of injuries that sidelined him for 15 games. Murray Oliver, Lou Nanne, Dean Prentice, and Danny Grant were solid performers all year long as Coach Jack Gordon's North Stars made the NHL take notice. A welcome addition to Minnesota was veteran Bob Nevin, acquired in an off-season trade with New York. Nevin's steadying two-way play was a major factor in the North Stars' surge. Bill Goldsworthy led all Minnesota scorers with his unique style of celebration and a 31-goal season, his third consecutive year of 30 or more. Although the attack was formidable, Minnesota's pride is defense. Ted Harris, Barry Gibbs, and Tom Reed provided the savvy and muscle, while netminders Cesar Maniago and Gump Worsley provided the acrobatics that led to a second-place finish in the Vezina Trophy race. The St. Louis Blues took third in the West behind the surprising play of rookie goaltender Jacques Caron. Caron came on strong in the second half of the season to lift the Blues into the playoffs after a dogfight that went down to the final weekend. Gary Unger topped all St. Louis scorers, finishing among the league's top 20 with 36 goals and 34 assists. He received strong support from Mike Murphy, Gary Sabourin, and Jack Eagers, all with 20 goals or better on the year. Phil Roberto, obtained in a mid-season trade with Montreal, was another reason for the Blues' late-season rush, as was the consistent all-around play of Frank St. Marseille. The timeliest goal of the year came in overtime of the seventh game of first-round playoff competition. Kevin O'Shea's blistering slap shot eliminated the Minnesota North Stars and advanced the Blues into the Stanley Cup semifinals. The Pittsburgh Penguins clinched the final West Division playoff spot on the last day of the season following an incredible battle down the stretch. For the first time in their 5-year history, the Penguins had 30 goal scorers as Jean Pronovost and Greg Polis erased the former club mark of 26. Sil Epps led all Pittsburgh point getters with 59, while Brian Hextall, Ron Schock, and Bob Leader added scoring momentum in the fight for 4th place. Veteran Tim Horton anchored an improving backline with help from promising youngsters Darrell Edistrand and Dave Burrows. Jim Rutherford took charge in goal when the going got tough, and he did the job, including this stop that saved the entire season on the final weekend. The Philadelphia Flyers' year defied belief. Goalie Bruce Gamble suffered a heart attack in mid-season. He recovered to attend Bruce Gamble Night at the Spectrum, but is permanently retired from hockey combat. Just prior to his illness, Gamble was playing the best hockey of his career and had won the #1 job in goal for the Flyers. Doug Favell took over following Gamble's departure and went the rest of the season with virtually no relief help. The bright light for the Flyers was Bobby Clark. Clark broke all Philadelphia club records with 35 goals and 46 assists, good for 81 points and 10th place in the NHL scoring race. Second-year man Bob Kelly had another productive campaign for Philadelphia. Simon Olé had his best season ever with 23 goals. And Gary Dornhofer was the Flyers' second high scorer behind Clark. But the entire year went kaput with only 4 seconds left in the final game when a last-ditch goal doomed the Flyers to 5th place. The California Golden Seals were also struggling in the thick of the pack for the final playoff berth down to the last week, but had to settle for 6th. However, the Golden Seals unveiled 22-year-old rookie goaltender Gilles Meloche, and he showed why California is well protected in goal for years to come. The Seals' defense was also bolstered by newcomers Bob Stewart and Rick Smith, obtained from Boston in the trade for Carol Vadnais. Stewart and Smith added much-needed muscle to the California lineup. Defenseman Dick Redmond was the Seals' outstanding performer in his first full season in the NHL. Redmond is one of the best attacking defensemen to enter the league since Bobby Orr. His 45 points in 1972 gives testimony to that fact. The Los Angeles Kings were the 5th team, gamely battling it out for the playoffs until the closing weeks. Whitey Veeding led all Kings scorers with 27 goals and 28 assists, his second big season in a row. The goaltending duo of Rogie Vachon and Gary Edwards had a busy year, and their presence, along with defenseman Gilles Marat, has the Los Angeles defensive prospects looking up. The Kings had 5 players over the 20-goal mark: Ralph Backstrom, Butch Goring, Serge Bernier, and Jim Johnson, plus Veeding. Several more good reasons why the Kings are on the upgrade.
She never wanted a storybook wedding. No fancy engraved invitations. No stuffy RSVP envelopes. All she needed was a postcard, a dime-a-minute 800 number, and a suitably romantic location. With Sprint Sense Anytime, now all your calls are a dime a minute. Calls from home, calling card calls, even calls to your Sprint 800 number. You too can live happily ever after. Call Sprint at 1-800-PIN-DROP now.
Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. The new Silverado interior is so big, there's plenty of room for seating. And, in a pinch...
Mommy said I could ride the pony.
Ample room for sleeping. Introducing Silverado, the truck from Chevrolet.
Discover the hitting secrets of America's finest baseball school in a professional instructional videotape. Teaching the Mechanics of the Major League Swing features professional scout and instructor Tom Umansky and the same award-winning tested under fire techniques that have produced baseball world's back-to-back-to-back AAU national championship teams. Coach Umansky's study and analysis of thousands of baseball's best professional swings has yielded a no less than revolutionary approach to consistent hitting. It's proven, and you'll love its easy-to-understand, step-by-step video training methods. Teaching the Mechanics of the Major League Swing benefits players of all ages and ability levels. A valuable addition to any coach's library, too, and it makes a great gift. Thousands have been sold at $39.95, but if you'll call now and use your credit card, you'll pay only $29.95. To order, call toll-free 1-800-754-0077. That's 1-800-754-0077. This is the tape that gets results.
Hey, hockey fans, if you want Classic Cup action, watch the Ultimate Stanley Cup on ESPN Classic. Get up for the Cup with the best Stanley Cup games in history. Game 1, Game 2, all the way through Game 7.
The waiting is over!
You're at center ice as Lemieux, Hasek, Messier, and the great ones shoot for hockey's holy grail.
Lord Stanley, get me the brandy.
If you're looking for some cold comfort, catch the Ultimate Stanley Cup starting Sunday only on ESPN Classic.
This is ESPN Classic.
As the playoffs got underway, Boston eliminated Toronto, St. Louis ousted Minnesota, New York toppled Montreal, and Chicago swept Pittsburgh. In the semifinals, Boston beat St. Louis, and New York topped Chicago, both in 4-game sweeps. And so the Stanley Cup Finals paired the Boston Bruins and the New York Rangers. The opening game was a wild and woolly affair that was knotted up at 5-5 when Ace Bailey suddenly broke down the far boards. He cut in and beat Ed Jockerman late in period 3 to give the Bruins a dramatic 6-5 victory. The team split the next 2 games, and Game 4 on Madison Square Garden ice was crucial for both sides. And at times like this, it's always comforting to have Bobby Orr in your lineup. Orr splits the Rangers' defense, and quickly the Bruins grab a 1-0 lead. Orr tallied a second goal to make it 2-0, and then with Boston shorthanded, Orr and Don Marcotte combine on this picture play to put the game out of reach and put the Bruins only 1 game away from the Stanley Cup. Boston went for the clincher at home in Game 5, but the Rangers had other ideas as they fought on even terms, deadlocked at 2-2 in the 3rd period. Ted Irvin sets up Bobby Russo, and Russo notches his second goal of the night to give the Rangers a 3-2 win and keep their cup hopes alive. Game 6 is back in New York, and once again the teams battle it out in a hard-fought, evenly matched hockey game. And once again, Bobby Orr takes command as he whirls, moves in, shoots, and scores to break a scoreless tie and put the Bruins on top. Orr set up a Wayne Cashman tip-in to make it 2-0, and then the Bruins seal the Rangers' fate as Phil Esposito feeds Wayne Cashman for his second goal of the game late in period 3. The Bruins' 3-0 win clinched their second Stanley Cup in 3 years, and Bobby Orr was named the most valuable player, adding the Conn Smythe Trophy to his annual NHL silverware collection.
But Cornwallis backhanded it in. It was Cornwallis' 15th goal of the playoffs, a new NHL record. Now the Canadiens try to put Chicago away for good. Cornwallis puts a pass in front, and Mark Cardiff scores to make it 6-4. Time ran out on the Blackhawks, and Montreal captain Henri Richard showed off the Canadiens' 18th Stanley Cup. Back in 1964, Future world heavyweight champ Joe Frazier won the Olympic gold medal in Tokyo. 4 years later, Big George Foreman followed in Joe's footsteps, taking the heavyweight gold at the Mexico City Games. Now in 1973, Foreman in the red trunks tries to take Frazier's world heavyweight title. He drops Joe in the first round. Frazier
showing my hands and all the things he said about you aren't true. You gotta prove to him that you're the fighter. When they raise his hand in victory, he's gonna have difficulty raising it up. That's the only thing that I could guarantee. The final round, I hit him, and he went down. And I knew the moment he went down, I saw him on the canvas, I knew then in my heart that that's it. If he gets up, which he did get up, there was no way he was going to survive. I was thrilled. Well, not only did I prove to Ingemar Johansson that I was a much better fighter than what he had been saying I was, I also brought the title back to America. And that's the thing that I felt so shameful about when I lost it, because I lost it to someone who took it back to a foreign country. And at that time, I felt that the whole country would look down on me because I let the title go. It was the most gratifying moment of my life. 1960, when I regained the heavyweight title.
From his early days as a Golden Glover to Olympic champion and champion of the world, boxing was Floyd Patterson's life.
What boxing gave to me, I couldn't have gotten anywhere else. Whatever I am today, I owe the boxing. Boxing gave me everything. It took me out of the ghettos. It took my family out of the ghettos. My mother, brothers and sisters, my father. It gave me a whole new life. I've traveled all over the world. I've met people from all over the world. And I would say you wouldn't be here today unless it was boxing. So actually, I owe everything to boxing.
Jordan just sails down the free throw line. Jordan with a jam.
This is ESPN Classic.
Welcome to Victory Yard and to Shap one-on-one with the greatest home run hitter in baseball history, the man who hit 755 home runs during his 23-year career, Henry Aaron. Henry, thank you for joining us. Every one of your 755 home runs was historic because it added up to an historic number. But, of course, the one that most people remember most vividly is number 715 on April 8th, 1974. Can you review that day? I know how often you're asked this question, but how did you went out to the ballpark and what happened from then on?
Well, as I mentioned, the president, the governor, Mrs. and Mrs. Carter was there, President Carter, and Andrew Young was there. We had Maynard Jackson. We had the late Sammy Davis Jr. was there. And we had a lot of other dignitaries were there, and some people tell me it was very cold at night, but I tell you, it was very warm to me. But it was a great night, and of course, the person that meant the most to me at that time was my mother and father.
Sure.
And they were both there, and of course my wife was there, and my family, my kids, and all were there. But it was a very good night, Dick, I must say. And I didn't know that I was going to break the record, but. I got a pitch to hit, and I hit it out of the ballpark, and everybody was witness. Everybody was there, got a chance to see it.
you were facing Al Downing,
yes,
of the Los Angeles Dodgers, and he had pretty good luck with you.
Yes, he had very good luck. I had not hit him very well, you know, and for some reason, he just hung a fastball. Not a fastball, I'm sorry. It was supposed to have been a screwball, and he got it too much over the plate, and I happened to hit it out of the ballpark.
When you saw it going, was there any time to think?
I thought it was going out. I thought it had an excellent chance of going out. You know, I had hit enough home runs to realize that, you know, that I wasn't worried about I was going to hit him as far as Sammy Sosa or McGuire. I just wanted to go out of the ballpark. You know, and it went out of the ballpark, and of course, a teammate of mine caught it. Tom House caught it and brought it back to me.
It was the greatest catch of House's career.
And it was the greatest moment for me, too, because if it had gotten in the stand, there probably would have been a scramble. Somebody probably would have been killed or hurt over, you know. So I was glad that it went where it did, and Tom was able to bring it back to me.
And then you started around the bases, and a couple of fans came out to join you on your run.
A couple of kids. They didn't mean any harm, you know. They in fact, they've had a reenactment of that part, you know, and those kids, they're grown men, of course, right now, but they've done quite well for themselves.
Right, leading up to that moment, you had gotten a lot of hate mail, you had gotten threats on your life, on your family's life, and things like that. Now comes this moment where you break Babe Ruth's record, and you see people coming out of the stands. Was there ever a moment of being frightened?
No, not really, because, you know, that was an afterthought. It was over with. I broke the record, so if somebody wanted to harm me, they were a little late. So I didn't think about that part of it, you know. In fact, I never thought about it at all going through that whole episode, a year and a half, because I always felt like once I was in the ballpark, I felt like I was the most protected person in the world. I just didn't feel like anybody, and yet, you know, it was the easiest place in the world for somebody that wanted to do bodily harm, you know. But I didn't feel like anything could happen to me once I got to the ballpark. Not absolutely nothing. I thought I was in the safest place in the world.
755 has stood up now for a quarter of a century. How much longer do you think it will stand up?
I don't know, Dick. And you know, as I said before, and I'll say it again, records are made to be broken. You know, I mean, I established that record. I broke Babe Ruth's record. Last year, Roger Maris' record was broken by two players last year. You know, Sammy Sosa and McGuire. Records are made to be broken. You know, athletes come along if they're durable enough, play long enough. There's several players capable of doing it. I always give my thought, and the one player that I think has a chance, with no pun intended to anybody else, is that Ken Griffey Jr. has the outside chance only because of his age. I think he's 29 years old. He has about 352 home runs right now. I know McGuire hit 70-some last year, but I think durable. I think this kid could play for the next 10 years. He can do some very serious damage to a lot of records.
You don't expect players anymore to play 23 seasons for a variety of reasons, whether it's physical or financial. I mean, they're so secure financially so quickly. You played for 23 years, and you played hard for 23 years. It was a lot different world, wasn't it?
Oh, no question about it. You know, my first contract called for me to make $5,000 a year, and the second, and I hit 280, 69 runs batted in, and 13 home runs. Well, today,
that'll get you about $8 million today.
Tell me, you know, that's what I'm saying. You know, so and the next year I went from 5,000 to 10,000. I raised a family. I had 2 kids. I had a house. Wasn't that big a house, but it was a house. It's something I love, and I closed my family with it. You know, so it was something I always remember. So it was almost 12 or 13 years before I got to $20,000.
Wow. And that's about the time you began to think of yourself as someone who could hit home runs, partly because you supplemented your income one year by going on a television show.
That's right. That's right. And I'll tell you another story.